I knew something was off the second I stepped out of my workshop. Man strangling my pregnant wife against our cedar siding. Before we dive in, let me know where you're watching from. It's wild how far these stories travel. Now let me rewind. Life on the outskirts of Ravenbrook Valley was supposed to be quiet. Gravel roads, wide sky, sunrises that made you forget the world beyond your acre of land. That's why my wife Mara and I moved here. With her 7 months pregnant, every day felt like a countdown to something hopeful. We finished the nursery together, argued playfully over baby names, filled the house with plans and paint samples. It was peaceful until the Meadowcrest. Home council collapsed under one woman's obsession, Claudine Reeves, a woman who treated rules like personality traits. She moved in last winter and within weeks declared herself president of a council the neighborhood barely remembered existed. Then came her biggest mistake. She appointed her own security officer, Trent Hollinger. No credentials, no authority. Just a man with a nylon vest, a budget flashlight, and a dangerous need to feel important. His first warning, our house numbers were too artistic. His second, Mara's potted plants were obstructing the line of sight. His third, Mara didn't tell me right away. Trent had followed her home from the pharmacy, claiming he needed to verify her route for community monitoring. She tried brushing it off. I didn't, but everything truly snapped a week later. I was repairing a busted latch on my workshop door when Mara called, her voice unsteady. "He came inside," she whispered. Trent said he needed to inspect the living room for safety compliance. I told her to lock the doors. Call if he came back. I had no idea how far the man would go. Fast forward to today. The boards smelled like wet pine after a morning drizzle. Mara was outside placing new herb, pots along the railing, her favorite small ritual lately. I told her I'd be gone for only a few minutes. 5 minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes to lose the world you built. A low thud echoed through the yard. Then another. Too heavy to be a dropped pot. Too sharp to be accidental. I stepped toward the porch and froze. Trent wasn't barking orders. He wasn't writing some pathetic citation. He had Mara pinned to the wall, one hand crushing her throat, his forearm digging into her collarbone. Her feet scraped uselessly against the boards, her fingers clawing at his wrist as her face flushed red with fear and fury. The shattered herb pot lay at their feet. Her mouth opened, but only a strangled gasp came out. "You think being pregnant lets you defy council orders?" Trent hissed. Something inside me went silent, cold, final. And Trent Hollinger was about to learn what consequences are. Trent didn't even look at me at first. He was too busy crushing the air out of my wife's lungs. Mara's eyes darted toward me, wide, wet, terrified, but still burning with the stubborn strength I fell in love with. She tried to choke out my name, but Trent only tightened his grip. "Back off," he barked, finally turning his head. "This is Meadowcrest Council business." She resisted an inspection. His voice was trembling, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of someone who'd convinced himself he was untouchable. Mara's breaths came in short, jagged bursts. Her knees buckled, her hands trembled. Her nails dug into his forearm, trying to pry him off. The flush on her cheeks was turning a dangerous violet. I stepped forward, every muscle in my body cold and controlled. "Let go of her," I said quietly. Trent sneered. "She assaulted me first. Pregnant or not, she doesn't get special treatment." He raised his free hand like he intended to hit her. That was the moment everything in me locked into place. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I moved. Training isn't flashy. It's not loud or dramatic. It's a decision made in a fraction of a second, the kind of decision you don't unmake. I closed the distance before he realized he'd already lost. His arm came down, but I caught his wrist midair. My grip clamped around it like steel. With my other hand, I peeled his fingers off Mara's throat one by one. She collapsed to her knees, coughing harshly, her hands shaking as she pulled in a desperate lungful of air. Trent twisted, trying to yank free. "Get off me!" He didn't finish. I torqued his arm past its natural range. The sound that followed was a sickening wet pop. Trent's scream tore through the air. His knees buckled and he dropped, but I didn't release him. I pivoted, driving him face first onto the boards and pinning him with my weight. "You broke my arm!" He choked, his voice cracking, veins bulging in his neck. "You put your hands on a pregnant woman," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My wife, he tried to reach with his other arm, maybe for the cheap baton clipped to his vest, maybe out of pure panic. I kicked it away, sending it skittering across the porch. Then I pressed my knee onto his ribs and leaned in. There was a crack. Then a second one, deeper, sharper. Trent's scream collapsed into a pitiful whimper. "Please stop," he gasped, trying to twist away. Mara was sitting against the wall now, a shaky hand on her throat, tears streaking down her cheeks. But her eyes, God, her eyes were fierce. She gave me the smallest nod, letting me know she was conscious, breathing again. I locked Trent's good arm behind his back. His broken one dangled uselessly, fingers twitching. His breath rattled, uneven and panicked. "You're done," I said. He tried to speak, but only a strained groan slipped out. I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed 911. My voice was steady, focused. One male impersonating an officer, trespassing, assaulting a pregnant woman. Suspect restrained. Medical transport needed. The word medical made Trent collapse into sobs. Sirens echoed faintly from down the valley, growing closer. Mara staggered upright, leaning heavily on the porch railing. Her voice was raw but steady when she whispered, "He picked the wrong house." The color drained from Trent's face, and the man who thought a vest and a clipboard made him a king lay broken on our porch, realizing too late that Meadowcrest's fake authority wasn't going to protect him anymore. The deputies reached our porch, faster than I expected for a back road in. Ravenbrook Valley, red and blue flashed across the soaked boards as two cruisers slid into the gravel. The moment Trent heard the sirens, he curled around his shattered ribs like he thought he could hide the damage. Deputy Holt stepped out first, hand near his holster, eyes scanning everything. The bruises on Mara's throat, the angle of Trent's ruined arm, the broken pot shards on the porch. "What happened here?" Holt asked, voice steady but sharp. "He attacked my pregnant wife," I said. I stopped him. Holt crouched beside Trent, who tried to speak but only managed a wet, choking gasp. His arm bent in a shape the human body shouldn't allow. One look and Holt's jaw tightened. "Ambulance is 3 minutes out," he muttered, lifting his radio. "We've got felony assault on a pregnant woman. Suspect is down." Mara stood behind me, wrapped in a neighbor's blanket, still shaking but finally breathing right. Another deputy, Rios, searched Trent's vest first, then his pockets, then his clipboard. What he found pulled the air right out of my lungs. You need to see this," Rios said quietly. I took the clipboard. The title printed across the top made my blood go cold. High Priority Enforcement. Targets. And at the top of the list, Mara's full name. Below it, a handwritten note in jagged, rushed ink. Apply pressure if she resists. No exceptions. My fingers tightened until the edges of the clipboard dug into my palm. Holt looked up. "Who wrote that?" "Claudine Reeves," I said. "President of the Meadowcrest Home Council." Rios let out a low whistle. "Looks like she signed off on a lot more than newsletters." The ambulance rolled up, gravel crunching. Paramedics checked Trent, arm completely dislocated. Probable fractures in 3 ribs. Signs of a minor concussion. They loaded him onto the stretcher as he whimpered. Like he finally realized he wasn't walking away from this. Holt turned back to me. "You handled him like someone with training." I didn't answer. But Rios's eyes drifted toward the tattoo on my wrist, the one I usually kept covered. A trident. He inhaled slowly. "Military?" "Navy," I said. "A long time ago," explains the arm, Rios murmured. They exchanged a look, part respect, part realization of what Trent had picked a fight with. The news spread fast. By morning, warrants were issued for Claudine. Deputies dragged her from the HOA office, while she shrieked about executive authority and mandatory compliance. Protocols. But the files they seized didn't care about her excuses. She'd created her own private enforcement unit. She'd paid Trent from HOA reserve funds. She'd instructed physical intimidation. And she'd specifically targeted homeowners she disliked, including my wife. Charges stacked up like bricks. Conspiracy to commit assault, impersonation of an officer, misuse of HOA funds, endangerment, evidence tampering. When they loaded Claudine into the cruiser, she still screamed like she owned the valley. But that illusion died the second the door slammed shut. By noon the next day, the charges hit the public record like a landslide. Trent Hollinger, Meadowcrest's fake enforcer, was booked for felony: assault on a pregnant woman, impersonating an officer, trespassing with intent, conspiracy, and intimidation. Estimated sentence, 12 years minimum. Claudine Reeves, the self-appointed queen of Meadowcrest, faced her own list: conspiracy to commit assault, abuse of authority, misuse of HOA funds, criminal endangerment, falsifying compliance orders, and targeted harassment. 5 years in prison, $20,000 in restitution. Lifetime ban from any homeowners organization in the state. And in Ravenbrook Valley, a lifetime ban carries weight. People don't forget. That evening, Mara and I sat on the porch, the same boards where everything had happened just a day earlier. The rain had dried, leaving the air cool and clean. Her bruises had faded to soft shadows, her breathing finally steady again. She ran a hand over her belly, our daughter shifting gently beneath her palm. "It's really over," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but not fragile, more like someone realizing the storm had passed. I pulled her close. "It's over for them," I said. "They thought a title and a vest made them untouchable." She nodded slowly. "Imagine what would have happened if you hadn't come out. When you did." I didn't answer. I'd replayed that moment too many times already. A few more minutes. A slightly louder tool drop. One extra task inside the workshop. Sometimes peace hangs by threads you never see until they snap. A truck rumbled up the road. Deputy Holt stepped out with some paperwork, statements to sign, follow-up instructions, victim information packets. He spoke gently to Mara, checking her throat, asking about her pregnancy, reassuring her she'd done nothing wrong. Rios lingered behind him, watching me with a look that said he understood more than he'd ever say aloud. Before leaving, Holt paused at the step. "You did what you had to," he said quietly. "Anyone in your position would have done the same." I wasn't sure about that. Not everyone has the kind of training I spent years trying to forget. But I nodded. "Appreciate it." When the deputies left, Mara rested her head on my shoulder. The sky over Ravenbrook turned a fiery gold, the kind of sunset that makes the whole valley glow. "Do you think Meadowcrest will ever be the same?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but maybe that's a good thing." She smiled faintly. "We'll tell our daughter one day?" "Maybe," I said. "When she's old enough to understand why you never let fear make the rules." Mara squeezed my hand. "Or why you never mess with her mom." I laughed, quiet, tired, but real. And as the first stars cracked through the sky, I realized the truth. Meadowcrest hadn't changed us. It had revealed us. It showed what a community becomes when the wrong people gain power. It showed what a man becomes when someone threatens the people he loves. And it showed what happens when a fake HOA cop and the woman who unleashed him forget one thing: behind every house is a family willing to fight back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to follow Behind the Hedges for more real HOA encounters and cinematic retellings. Because out here, the quietest neighborhoods often hide the loudest secrets. The end.